On the surface, Yuto was just a laid-back middle school student. In other people's eyes, he was weak and lazy, and he slept almost all day. But that was only his disguise. The real Yuto was an S-class Spriggan from Arkham. A Spriggan was a special warrior who protected ancient relics. Arkham was a global organization that kept those relics out of dangerous hands. No one knew the true power of those relics. If the wrong people used them, they could even destroy the world. 6 years ago, Arkham had found a metal plate from an ancient civilization. A shocking message was carved into it. The message told the people living on this planet to protect that legacy and keep the relics away from evildoers. But who had left that message? Back at school, Yuto was sitting casually in class. He still looked like he did not care about anything. Then an emergency notice suddenly came in. Arkham needed him to deploy right away. Inside a laboratory, a crazed military scientist had decoded a rare ancient relic. He planned to use that relic to destroy the world. His colleagues tried to calm him down. They reminded him that if he destroyed the world, everyone would die too. But the scientist had completely lost control. The relic's power started to turn against him, and his body began to change. In an instant, he killed all his colleagues and subordinates. Just then, Yuto arrived at the scene. He burst straight in. The soldiers immediately opened fire on him. But they were no match for Yuto. He dodged the bullets and charged straight into the crowd. Before the enemies could react, he knocked them down one after another. Yuto fought his way deeper into the building, room by room. At last, he found the scientist who wanted to destroy the world. Yuto pointed his gun at him. The scientist mocked him for arriving too late. Then the scientist suddenly released a sonic wave. The sound almost pierced Yuto's eardrums. Yuto covered his head and was pinned down, unable to fight back. The scientist walked toward him step by step. As Yuto was about to collapse, he forced himself to stay conscious. Then he kicked the window out. The room was wrecked in an instant, and dust filled the air. The scientist could not see his surroundings. Yuto seized the chance and struck him. Then Yuto slammed the scientist hard into the wall. The scientist had already connected his brain to the relic. So when he lost consciousness, the relic stopped working too. With that, the mission was complete. After the mission, Yuto quickly returned home. Meanwhile, Rina, a famous scholar, returned to Japan through Tokyo International Airport. She had left Japan more than 10 years earlier. She opened her laptop and looked at a photo of herself as a child with her closest friend. She was looking forward to seeing him again. Then a foreign man walked up to Rina. He claimed that Arkham had sent him to pick her up. Rina did not suspect anything and followed him out of the airport. But on the way, she received a call from the Arkham director. The director called to apologize. He said he had failed to pick her up at the airport. Only then did Rina realize that the man in front of her was not from Arkham at all. He was a fake escort sent by the enemy. Once his lie was exposed, the man held Rina at gunpoint and forced her into a car. The man was about to drive away with Rina. But before they could take her away, Yuto arrived. He stood right in front of the car and forced them to stop. Yuto clearly recognized Rina. She was his closest friend from childhood. And for Rina, Yuto was the one person she most wanted to see after coming back to Japan. While Yuto blocked the car, one criminal suddenly pulled out a gun and fired twice at his head. Yuto was not really hit. He was only pretending to be dead to lure the man closer. When the criminal got close, Yuto grabbed him and punched him hard in the eye. That blow knocked the man unconscious. Then Yuto turned to deal with the second man and beat him down too. Yuto went over to save Rina. But they had not seen each other for many years, and Rina did not recognize the grown-up Yuto. Then the criminal from earlier woke up again and tried to get his weapon back. Yuto grabbed the gun, emptied it, and knocked him out with it. After that, Yuto drove off in their car. Elsewhere, an enemy leader with a strange hairstyle appeared before the criminals. He had wanted to use this chance to test Yuto's real ability. But his men had disappointed him. Then another accomplice appeared and asked why the American forces were also after this relic. The strange-haired leader did not answer directly. He only said they would find out soon enough. Afterward, the Arkham director apologized to Rina. Their mistake had put Rina's life in danger. He begged Rina to forgive them and not hold them responsible. Rina let it go. She only asked where she needed to go for the mission. She wanted to start working right away. The Arkham director was about to leave. But Rina suddenly remembered something important. She asked where the child in the photo was. She wanted to know whether Arkham had found him. Following Yuto's request, the Arkham director lied to her. He said the child in the photo was named Yuto, and he had disappeared 7 years ago. Rina froze when she heard the word disappeared. She anxiously asked what had happened to Yuto. Yuto himself had asked the Arkham director to say that. Yuto did this because he did not want Rina to get dragged into trouble because of him. The director apologized to Rina, handed her the files, and left. They also arranged tight security for Rina. But Rina was still thinking about Yuto. Not long after, Yuto entered the room through the window as a Spriggan. Rina did not know that the Spriggan in front of her was Yuto. He tested her on purpose and asked why she cared so much about the ordinary student in the photo. Rina told him that Yuto was the only person she knew in Japan. Her family had died when she was young. After that, relatives had taken her in, and she had lived in America ever since. That was why, after returning to Japan, the person she wanted to see most was Yuto. Even after hearing this, Yuto did not reveal his identity. He only gave her a cold goodbye and left. The next day, the Arkham director explained the location of the secret ruins to Rina. The ruins were hidden inside snow-covered Mount Fuji. The director showed her the coordinates and all the files. He asked Rina to decode the files as soon as possible. Rina agreed. She got to work and tried to crack the information about the ruins. But after researching for a while, she still made no progress. So she decided to go out for some air. But not long after she left, a group of armed men broke in. The American forces had also gotten involved. They killed all the Arkham guards. Rina panicked and immediately hid inside an elevator. But a soldier broke through the elevator ceiling and jumped straight down. She ran for the stairs and fled all the way to the 7th floor. But the entire building had already been surrounded, and she had nowhere left to go. At the critical moment, Yuto smashed through the metal fence and rushed in. He stopped those men again and kept them from hurting Rina. Then he charged into the enemy and took down everyone in his way. He looked at Rina and apologized. Then Yuto grabbed one soldier and threw him out the window. He wanted to force the person behind the attack to reveal himself. But Yuto did not know that this was actually a trap. Immediately after that, fire broke out all around them. Dozens of enemy soldiers attacked him at the same time. Yuto did not back down. He exploded into action and charged into the crowd. Anyone hit by one of his punches could not stand up again. When he walked up to the last two enemies, their collars suddenly exploded. Yuto immediately understood that someone else was controlling everything from behind the scenes. Then the mastermind finally appeared. The mysterious man had no intention of negotiating. He introduced himself as Koji and said his mission was to eliminate Yuto and everyone connected to him. Then he snapped his fingers. In an instant, his power destroyed the area around them. A violent storm swept through the area. Yuto was overwhelmed and badly hurt. But he did not surrender. He quickly studied the situation and tried to find a way to break Koji's technology. He rushed forward to attack, but he failed to hit Koji. Koji dodged him with ease. Koji admitted that Yuto was strong. He also said he had not expected Arkham to have a warrior like Yuto. But after saying that, Koji disappeared right in front of Yuto. After Koji disappeared, Yuto stood there, furious. He had failed to stop Koji, and he had failed to prevent the attack. The next day, Arkham sent Rina to the ruins site. Yuto went with her. Yuto thought this arrangement was too dangerous. They were already late, and the American and Russian teams had probably arrived long ago. The others told him not to worry. They said no one except Arkham had reached the site yet. But before they could finish, the plane was attacked and exploded. Rina froze in fear. Fortunately, Yuto grabbed her and jumped out before the plane crashed. He brought Rina safely to the ground. But Rina was badly shaken. She could not understand why anyone would kill people over an ancient metal plate. She believed that if the enemy really wanted the relic, Arkham should just hand it over. Nothing was worth risking innocent lives for. Yuto handed Rina the metal plate with the ancient message carved into it. He told her that things were not that simple. If those relics really had the power to destroy the world, the consequences would be irreversible if they fell into the wrong hands. After Rina finished looking at it, Yuto took the metal plate back. He also admitted that Rina had never been part of this. But Arkham needed her now. Without her, they could not decode the ruins. Rina pulled herself together. She said trusting Yuto was not exactly wise. But in the end, she was still willing to take a chance on Yuto and put her life in his hands. Yuto hid Rina in a hidden spot in the forest. He told her not to worry. Those people could not hurt them. At the same time, the enemy troops broke into the forest. Yuto silently took them down one by one. Once the area was clear, he ran into an enemy who had been waiting for him. It was a massive Russian man. He stretched and told Yuto bullets were useless against him. He called himself Dr. Viku. He had been cybernetically modified. Viku threatened Yuto, saying he would smash his head right there. Yuto was furious. He charged at Viku with all his strength, trying to stop Viku's plan. But Viku was brutal and powerful. He attacked from every angle. Yuto dodged, lunged forward, and snapped Viku's neck. But it did nothing to Viku. He stood back up, twisted his head back into place, and looked normal again. Meanwhile, the Russian soldiers captured Rina. Rina was terrified. They were about to report back to their leader. But before they could speak, the collars around their necks suddenly exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. Rina could not handle what she saw and passed out on the spot. It turned out Koji had been watching from the shadows the entire time. He left Yuto to Viku, then rushed in and carried the unconscious Rina away. Meanwhile, Yuto was still being overwhelmed by Viku. Viku grabbed Yuto by the head and slammed him into a tree. Just before Viku could kill him, Yuto fought back with all his strength. He spun around and smashed Viku into a rock. Viku's head was crushed, and his whole body collapsed. Yuto thought Viku was finished, so he went back to check on Rina. But when he got back, Rina was already gone. Yuto blamed himself for it all. But regret came too late. Koji had already taken her into the fire temple. A relic powerful enough to destroy the world was stored there. After a while, Rina finally woke up. Koji began using his fire power to activate the temple. The whole place began to fall apart. Strange ancient writing appeared inside the temple. Koji forced Rina to crack the code quickly and release the legendary fire serpent. Rina was completely confused. Only then did Koji reveal his true identity. He was not an ordinary enemy. He came from the Moro clan, the clan that had once guarded the fire temple. That was why he knew so many of the temple's secrets. But Koji no longer wanted to protect the relic. He wanted to use it. He forced Rina to crack the ancient symbols within minutes. Once the code was broken, he could control the fire serpent, fulfill the Moro clan's old ambition, and take control of the world. Rina was terrified. But she had no other choice. She could defy Koji and be killed. Or she could help him and let millions of innocent people die because of her. Rina had no good way out. Then Koji brought up her only childhood friend and used Yuto to threaten her. Koji told Rina that if he destroyed the ground, the fire serpent would go out of control. When that happened, it would destroy everything in its path. Neither Rina nor Yuto would be able to escape. Then he revealed the truth. The S-class Spriggan who had always stayed by Rina's side, without her noticing, was Yuto, her childhood friend. Rina was shocked when she heard the truth. At the same time, Yuto still had no idea where Rina had been taken. Then the whole place began to shake violently. The forest began to change too, as if some kind of power had twisted it. Yuto realized that Rina might have already cracked the code. He rushed toward the temple, hoping he could still make it in time. At last, he reached the temple. In front of him stood a fire serpent with 8 heads. Koji mocked Yuto and used Rina's concern for him to keep threatening them. He was ready to let them die there together. Rina begged Yuto to run away. Koji attacked Yuto at once. Yuto tried several times to trick him, but he still could not find an opening. Koji attacked while mocking Yuto. He told him to try harder if he wanted to save Rina. Otherwise, Yuto could only watch Rina get swallowed by fire right in front of him. Yuto barely dodged the attacks, but he was almost at his limit. Koji revealed his real goal. He wanted to kill Yuto and Rina first, then control the fire serpent. By then, no one would be able to stop him. Koji lunged at Yuto and left a deep wound across his chest. Luckily, Yuto had placed the metal plate back inside his combat suit earlier. Without the metal plate blocking that fatal strike, he would have died. Koji was about to finish him off. But then, someone who should have stayed down walked in. That person was Dr. Viku. His cybernetic modifications had kept him from truly dying. Once he could move again, he went straight to Koji. Viku confronted Koji. He believed Koji had betrayed him, taken all the benefits for himself, and wanted to silence him. Then Viku nearly tore Koji's arm off. But Koji fought back with ultrasonic waves. He blew Viku's head open and threw him into the fire. Then Koji looked at Yuto. He was ready to kill Yuto for good. But just as the sword came down, Yuto pulled out the metal plate and blocked it. Koji's sword shattered into pieces. Koji froze completely at the sight. He could not believe that a rusty piece of iron had shattered the legendary holy sword. While Koji was off balance, Yuto grabbed the gem from his hand first. Then, with one strike, he slammed Koji into the lava. The gem turned out to be the core that controlled the fire serpent. Yuto used it to take back control of the fire serpent. The fire serpent sank back into the magma. Everything finally returned to normal. Yuto then went to save Rina. Of course, Rina scolded him. Yuto had kept the truth hidden the whole time and had even pretended not to know her. Rina finally knew that Yuto was the person she had been looking for. Yuto could only take the scolding he deserved. That was how the day ended. The next day, Rina left Japan and returned to the United States to continue her work. Yuto sat there reading the letter she had left for him. He was very happy. He also remembered their childhood. Back then, he had been happy too. A few weeks later, Yuto returned to school. He was still sleeping in class, and the student council president scolded him for missing class for so long. He had just promised to come to class from then on when he received a notice from Arkham. The student council president tried to stop him, but could not even touch him. Yuto left through the window and rushed off to carry out a new mission. After that, Yuto boarded a plane. The head of Arkham explained the new mission to him. 3 years earlier, scientists had used muons to locate a strange cave. Later, an expedition team had found a giant ship inside. Arkham believed it was very likely an ancient relic, so they had to move before the other forces did. The head of Arkham warned Yuto about the danger. If a relic of this scale fell into the wrong hands, it could destroy the world. Yuto accepted the mission. Sometime later, they arrived in Antarctica. There was a massive relic there, and it looked extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, a group of Turkish soldiers were analyzing Arkham's movements. They found out Arkham's plane had taken off 8 hours earlier. The person on the plane was very likely the legendary Agent Yuto. The soldiers became nervous when they heard that name. But their captain did not care at all. He even wanted to deal with Yuto himself. At the Antarctic base, Yuto met the old scientist and his assistant, Miss Maki. They were part of the team studying the giant ship. Before they could explain more, an enemy suddenly rushed toward Maki with a blade. Yuto pushed her out of the blade's path and saved her life. Just then, the alarm went off. The team outside had been attacked. Yuto told the old scientist and Miss Maki to stay back, then left right away. These enemies were very strong. One of them carried a machine gun and quickly overwhelmed the team. No one could stop him. The assault team captain ordered the team to retreat to the second line of defense. But the enemy blocked their retreat route. The attackers soon took control of the situation. But before they could push any further, Yuto arrived. The moment Yuto made his move, the situation changed. One enemy was about to attack Yuto, but the blonde wire user suddenly recognized him. The blonde man warned his armored companion to be careful. Yuto was one of Arkham's strongest S-class Spriggans. But the heavily armored giant did not care. He fired wildly at Yuto with his machine gun. Yuto hid behind a container. The blonde wire user cut through the container and blew it open. Then he mocked Yuto for doing nothing but running. The armored giant kept firing at Yuto. But the attack still could not pin Yuto down. Yuto grabbed him and slammed him into a wall. The heavily armored giant became furious when he saw his companion get hurt. He charged at Yuto. But Yuto was too fast and dodged the attack easily. Then Yuto fought back. Just as Yuto thought the situation had settled down a little, the second criminal woke up too. The two teamed up and surrounded Yuto. One used ropes to control him, while the other pressured him from the side. They forced Yuto onto a container and grabbed him by the throat. Yuto looked like he was about to go down. Then a bullet suddenly struck one of the attackers and forced him back. An Arkham member from China had joined the fight. His name was Jean. The two quickly divided the tasks. Jean would handle the blonde wire user. Yuto would handle the heavily armored giant. The blonde wire user attacked Jean with wires, but he still could not keep up with Jin's speed. After Jean realized the man was also wearing titanium alloy armor under his clothes, he decided to end the fight quickly and help Yuto. Meanwhile, Yuto was locked in a hard fight with the heavily armored giant. The giant's outer armor was ridiculously tough. Ordinary attacks could not break through it. Yuto quickly changed targets and prepared to attack the giant's head. After the heavily armored giant saw through Yuto's plan, he began to panic. Meanwhile, Jean had badly injured the blonde wire user. The heavily armored giant was worried about his companion, so he rushed toward Yuto. This time, Yuto did not back down. He showed the heavily armored giant that he was not weaker than Jean. Yuto drew his blade and charged forward. The heavily armored giant tried to block him. But Yuto broke straight through his armor and left a huge wound across his chest. The enemy had hurt Yuto's companion. That made Yuto stop holding back. Until then, Yuto had been watching the giant's armor and looking for a weakness. Now that he had found one, he was ready to end the fight. After Yuto knocked down the heavily armored giant, Jin rushed over too. He was ready to execute the heavily armored giant on the spot. Yuto wanted to stop him, thinking they could get clues through interrogation. But Jin could not forgive him for killing countless innocent soldiers. In the end, Jin still killed the heavily armored giant. After the Turkish soldiers learned what had happened, they began to worry. But their leader reassured them. Arkham's forces had already been weakened, and their own mission was already complete. He would handle the rest. It seemed an even bigger conspiracy was behind all this. The scientists had already reached the giant ship's location. The ship was enormous, and it was buried unnaturally inside the mountain. Jin urged everyone to open the ship as soon as possible. But the old scientist said they already had the metal plate that served as the key. Still, the conditions for opening the ship were incomplete. As for what was missing, he was not sure. After he tapped the hull, the area began to collapse. At that moment, Renji, the boy with terrifying power, arrived. Everyone opened fire on him from every direction. But the bullets were useless against him. He walked forward without fear, broke into the laboratory, and took control of it. He forced everyone to hand over the metal plate. Yuto stood in front of him. But in an instant, the boy badly injured Yuto. Yuto vomited blood on the spot. The boy kicked again and blasted the entire area apart. He angrily ordered everyone to hand over the metal plate at once. Otherwise, they would die there just like Yuto. Yuto tried to stand, but he could not. His body had already given out. The old scientist stepped forward. He agreed to hand over what the boy wanted. But on one condition, the boy could not hurt anyone. The boy accepted the condition. Yuto passed out from his severe injuries. After that, Renji took the old scientist and Miss Maki to the giant ship's location. Back at the base, Jin found everyone badly injured. The blonde wire controller, badly injured from earlier, was still alive. He used Jin's friends as leverage and threatened him. Jin was forced to drop his guard and was ambushed. But the attack triggered something hidden inside his body. His body suddenly changed, and he turned into a monster-like being. In that terrifying state, Jin took down the blonde wire controller and his men. Only after the fight ended did Jin finally return to normal. At the same time, the old scientist reminded Renji that the metal plates alone could not open the giant ship. They still needed powerful magnetic energy. But Renji ignored his warning. His own ability could take the place of that magnetic energy. Renji used his power together with the metal plates and entered the ship. He reached the core. Renji used his power on it. The core immediately revealed an ancient story. As Renji read the information inside the core, he explained the origin of the ship. There had once been a man the villagers saw as insane. He had built the ship alone and lived on it with animals. Later, a storm had destroyed everything. Only he had survived. This ship could solve the environmental problems facing the world. But if it fell into evil hands, it could also become a weapon that destroyed humanity. The only question was who would end up controlling it. The old scientist was shocked. He could not understand how Renji had read so much information from the core. After Yuto regained consciousness, he and Jin immediately chased into the giant ship. Inside the ship, they saw countless preserved animals. The sight was terrifying. Elsewhere on the ship, Renji asked the old scientist to help him. He wanted the old scientist to help him activate the ship and destroy the current world. To Renji, humanity itself was the problem. He believed destroying the current world was the only way to create a new one. Renji showed the old scientist an illusion and tried to persuade him. But the old scientist refused. Renji immediately turned on Miss Maki. By attacking her, he threatened the old scientist. Disappointed, he said he had thought the old scientist would be smarter. Yuto rushed in. Renji then raised the giant ship. The entire mountain was destroyed in an instant. The ship was unbelievably massive. But Renji was still not satisfied. He began raising the temperature. The Antarctic ice started melting. It was already close to the end of the world. Yuto told Jin to take the old scientist and Miss Maki away. He would handle the rest. Renji had no intention of letting anyone leave. Without warning, he attacked the old scientist. But Jin saved the old scientist in time and charged at Renji. Renji surrounded himself with a shield. Yuto tried several times to break through, but he still could not get near him. Yuto started provoking him, trying to make him lose control. Renji was completely enraged. He used telekinesis to beat Yuto until Yuto was covered in blood. He even broke Yuto's bones. But Yuto still forced himself to stand. Then he walked toward Renji, step by step. He tried to persuade Renji to stop. He told Renji there was still kindness in his heart. He told him not to keep destroying everything. But Renji could no longer listen. Just as Renji was about to blow everything up, Yuto rushed forward. He punched Renji hard in the face. Renji lost control of the giant ship. Everything returned to normal. Renji did not understand why Yuto had not killed him. Yuto told him he was not a killer like Renji. He also had no right to decide another person's life or death so easily. Renji was moved by Yuto's words. But he also understood one thing. As long as the giant ship still existed, war forces would fight over it. Just when everyone thought the crisis was over, Renji suddenly pushed Yuto away. Then he activated the ship's self-destruct mode. The ship exploded. Everything started collapsing. Yuto passed out on the spot. Jean returned in time. He carried Yuto on his back and escaped from the giant ship with him. Just like that, one of the most important relics in the world was destroyed. This also became Arkham's first failed mission. 3 months later, Yuto left for a new mission. He arrived at a long-abandoned temple to search for the relic hidden inside. But a girl named Sumi had gotten there first and stolen the strange statue. Once the statue was removed from its original place, the temple began to collapse. Traps from every direction were also activated. Yuto blamed Sumi and asked her what she had done. Yuto pulled Sumi out before the temple collapsed. If they had been one step slower, both of them would have been buried inside. Yuto blamed Sumi for taking the statue. But Sumi did not care at all. She still insisted on following him. Yuto told her he was going to Guashan Forest. That place was extremely dangerous. No one had ever gone in and made it back out. But Sumi kept following him until they reached the cursed forest. The two of them entered the forest. As soon as they stepped inside, the curse took hold. They began losing their sense of time and direction. Even worse, a group of armored soldiers attacked them. Yuto quickly knocked several armored soldiers down. But the soldiers soon stood back up, as if they had already lost consciousness. One of them approached Sumi and tried to kill her. But Sumi was no ordinary girl either. She suddenly pulled out a gun and fought back. Then she ended the fight with a bomb. They left the area, unaware that someone was watching them. They kept moving until they reached the camp used by the soldiers from earlier. Those soldiers had originally been responsible for sealing off the area. But shockingly, all of them had been brutally killed. They found a tablet with recorded information on it. The tablet contained the legend of the forest. A king and queen had once ruled this place together. Later, the queen had been taken away by a demon. The king had taken his grief and anger out on the forest spirits. Since then, anyone who entered the forest would lose their way and be attacked by the spirits. The only way to break the curse was to return the queen to the king. The so-called queen was the statue Sumi had just stolen from the temple. But Sumi refused to return it. Just then, they heard a strange sound nearby. Yuto went to check it out. While he was distracted, Sumi was suddenly dragged away by a moving tree. When Yuto heard her voice, he rushed back at once. He found her hanging from the tree's branches. Yuto immediately rushed over and rescued her. Then he took Sumi and fled the scene. As soon as they got away, the area behind them exploded. Along the way, they caught a soldier and prepared to question him. But before the soldier could speak, he exploded in front of them. The tree spirit then appeared as a mist-like monster. After Yuto figured out its weakness, he activated a new function in his combat suit. Then he blasted it apart. Sumi looked a little uneasy. But she quickly denied that she was scared. She was still thinking about how much money she could get for the statue in her hands. Just then, Yuto's face turned serious. He sensed someone hiding behind them and told the person to come out. The man introduced himself as Ryoji. He was the captain of the American squad that had died in the forest. Yuto wanted information from him. But Ryoji kept avoiding the main point. He only suggested that they work together to escape the forest. Yuto did not trust him. After all, Ryoji had just watched one of his own men die without trying to save him. After they failed to reach an agreement, Ryoji activated his combat suit. The two began fighting. Sumi fired her gun to interrupt them. She warned them that the ghosts had appeared. Yuto could only accept Ryoji's help for the time being. The two worked together to hold back the ghosts. They saved Sumi before she was taken away. Yuto did not like Ryoji. But for now, he had to work with him in order to leave the forest. The three continued forward and left marks on the trees to confirm their route. But because of the curse, they always ended up back at the same tree, no matter how far they walked. After trying 3 times in a row, the three had no choice but to stop and rest. At that point, Ryoji admitted why he had come to the forest. He was searching for the real Soma. According to legend, Soma was an ancient substance that could bring tremendous power. Yuto did not believe it, and the two almost argued again. Sumi had to stop them in time. They continued forward until they reached a cave. Inside the cave, there was the skeleton of a man who had been dead for a long time. Sumi seemed like nothing more than a greedy Tomb Raider. But she also knew some spirit channeling skills. She used her summoning ability to make the skeleton speak briefly. Yuto explained that he only wanted to leave and had no interest in Soma. Only then did the man become less hostile. He explained that he had not entered the forest to take Soma. He had entered the forest to hide Soma and keep it from falling into evil hands. To break the curse, they had to place the queen's statue back where it belonged. They also had to destroy the Soma beneath the giant tree. After the summoning ended, the three finally knew what they had to do next. Sumi had already seen the location of the giant tree in the tablet records. So Yuto and Ryoji followed her deeper into the forest. Along the way, they ran into a group of zombie soldiers. The three quickly knocked them down. During the chaos, Sumi slipped away while Yuto and Ryoji were distracted. In the confusion, she also stole the metal plate from Yuto. She dug out the Soma formula and took a picture of it with her phone. To her, the rare ancient statue, the metal plate, and the Soma formula could all sell for a high price. But just as she was about to leave, a cursed darkness appeared. Sumi was so frightened that she could not move. At the same time, ghosts surrounded Yuto and Ryoji from every direction. One of the ghosts charged at them. But Yuto immediately took it down. Ryoji chose to stay behind and hold off the ghosts. He told Yuto to go break the curse. At first, Yuto was unwilling. But Ryoji said this was the first time he had risked his life. He was putting his hope in Yuto. He told Yuto not to disappoint him, no matter what. After Yuto agreed, he rushed toward the center of the forest. That was the core of the forest, also known as the Hermit's Land. Yuto took Sumi with him. He also told Sumi that he would deal with her later. They arrived at the core of the forest. It was the source of the curse. The king's ghost appeared in front of them. But his form quickly began to change. He attacked using the curses around him. Yuto dodged while fighting back. But the situation quickly became worse. Yuto had already done everything he could to fight back. But he still could not turn the situation around. The monster then turned toward Sumi. Her bag was torn open. The metal plate and the statue fell out. When Yuto saw those two items, he immediately understood what he had to do. He told Sumi to throw him the metal plate. Sumi firmly refused at first. Yuto could only shout at her. He told her to throw it over right away. In the end, Sumi did what he said and threw him the metal plate. Yuto rushed out without hesitation and caught the metal plate. He saw a king's statue inside the tree, wrapped in cursed power. Yuto used the metal plate to shatter the curse's outer shell. Then he activated his combat suit and forced the branches open. He entered the tree and placed the queen's statue back beside the king. All the ghosts disappeared. The curse was finally broken. The forest returned to normal. They could finally leave. Sumi took the chance to collect the fallen fragments of the cursed shell. She put them into her bag. Ryoji arrived at the scene. Yuto immediately prepared to fight. But after seeing Yuto risk his life to break the curse, Ryoji changed his mind. He turned away and spared Yuto, even though Yuto was in no condition to fight back. But before leaving, Ryoji warned him that he would not hold back next time. Yuto finally breathed a sigh of relief and collapsed to the ground. The forest mission finally ended. Later, after Yuto regained consciousness, he went to Sumi's school to find her. He showed Sumi a photo of that plant. It was the exact plant needed for making Soma. Then he told Sumi to delete the photo she had taken of the Soma formula. He had already figured out that she wanted to sell the photo for money. Sumi refused to delete it. Only then did Yuto tell her the plant had gone extinct long ago. No one would pay for an ancient formula that could not be made. After saying that, he walked away. Sumi realized her plan to get rich had fallen apart. She was so angry that she nearly broke down. Later, Yuto received a call from the head of Arkham while he was at school. He complained that the missions kept coming one after another. He still had exams to deal with. The head of Arkham urged him to come out immediately. A helicopter was already waiting for him on the roof. Yuto had no choice but to leave for a new mission. Meanwhile, the enemy was using a plane to transport a relic. Arkham forces tried to stop them, but each attempt failed. Only Yuto's squad was still pushing forward. Yuto broke through the gunfire and cleared enemies along the way. He tried to catch up with the plane carrying the relic. But the enemy's attacks were too intense. At one point, an explosion sent him flying. The plane was about to take off. Yuto got on a motorcycle and chased it onto the runway. Then he used his combat suit to force a hook onto the cabin door. But the plane was too fast. The hook snapped, and the recoil sent him flying. The mission failed in the end. Yuto immediately apologized to his superiors. Then he requested backup to continue the pursuit. But the helicopter still needed at least 15 minutes to arrive. For now, he could only wait. 15 minutes later, backup finally arrived. Using the enemy aircraft's route, Arkham traced it to a secret facility. By night, Yuto had reached the edge of the facility. He started observing its defenses. Inside the lab, a scientist objected to the US military taking his research away. He also objected to using electric shocks to open the relic by force. He warned Mari that it was extremely dangerous. Everyone there could be killed. But Mari, the military commander, ignored him. She raised her gun and forced him into silence. Then she ordered the experiment to begin. They sent the electric signal through. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the entire place lost power. The relic transformed into a humanoid monster with a mind of its own. If it lost control, the whole world could be destroyed. The scientist had opposed the military's reckless method. But as a researcher, he had waited his whole life to witness this moment. When the humanoid monster appeared, he became almost uncontrollably excited. But that excitement did not last. In an instant, the monster killed everyone at the scene. When Yuto saw what had happened, he rushed inside. Once inside, he found everyone already dead. Only Mari was still alive. Because Mari knew the facility better than he did, Yuto held her at gunpoint and forced her to lead the way. Right then, the monster melted through the gate and broke in. Yuto immediately let Mari go and told her to run. Then he opened fire to hold the monster back himself. But the bullets could not hurt it at all. Yuto switched to his knife and attacked. He drove the knife into the monster's head with a reverse strike. But it still did no damage. The monster fired back with lasers, pushing Yuto into a desperate situation. Yuto was injured in several places and could only keep retreating. At the last moment, he pushed his combat suit's defense to maximum. Then he broke through the compressed air current created by the monster. He moved to the monster's side and pulled out the knife stuck in its head. Then he swung upward from the ground and launched himself into the air. The slash cut off the monster's head and finally turned the fight around. Yuto thought the monster was finished. But the next second, the monster went into self-destruct mode. Yuto was about to be caught in the explosion. He contacted Mari and tried to escape as quickly as possible. But it was already too late. The monster exploded. Every system shut down in an instant. From where she was, Mari desperately tried to contact Yuto. But Yuto had already been blown away by the explosion. Only his helmet was left. Mari broke down and cried for him. She knew Yuto would never have been caught in the explosion if the military had not forced the experiment to begin. But then, Yuto crawled out of a vent. He was still alive. His combat suit had absorbed most of the blast, leaving him badly shaken but alive. Once Mari confirmed he had survived, she finally passed out. When Mari woke up, she was in a hospital. Her superior told her that the military had classified the incident as a terrorist crime. He also ordered Mari not to reveal the truth. At that moment, Mari realized she had been on the wrong side. By the end of the day, she had decided to give up all her military medals and work with Arkham to stop the military's plan. 2 months later, Yuto finally recovered. Then he received a new mission. Retrieve the crystal skull. The dangerous relic had once been protected by a scientist. But the day before, that scientist had been murdered. Arkham believed the scientist's daughter might know where the skull was hidden, so they sent Yuto to find her. At first, she refused to cooperate. She believed Arkham had failed to protect her father and had indirectly caused his death. But Yuto soon noticed that enemy agents were already following her. He had no time to explain everything. He forced her to escape with him first, then took out the pursuers. The mastermind behind the stolen crystal skull also hired an assassin to eliminate Yuto. His code name was Blank. Blank moved so fast that even Yuto struggled to keep up with him. For a moment, Yuto was almost completely suppressed. At the critical moment, the scientist's daughter remembered the clue her father had left behind. Only then did she realize the crystal skull's real secret. It was not a weapon. It was a storage device that held ancient information. Yuto quickly used Blank's arrogance against him. He lured Blank close to the skull. The skull released a strange energy and suppressed Blank's movements. Yuto seized that chance, knocked Blank down, and took back the crystal skull. The scientist's daughter also understood that what her father had protected was not an ordinary treasure. It was a dangerous legacy that could change the world. After the mission ended, she stopped blaming everything on Yuto and thanked him. 5 months passed after the crystal skull mission. Then an even bigger disaster broke out. An abnormal energy field suddenly appeared in the middle of the ocean. Its magnetic field had already reached 57 Teslas. And it was still rising. No one could explain what was happening. But Arkham soon realized one terrifying possibility. The Lost Kingdom might have truly reappeared. If they failed to act in time, the energy field could trigger a disaster across the world. So this time, Yuto was not heading into an ordinary relic mission. He was heading into a lost kingdom that might become a massacre. Meanwhile, Kaito, a combat unit commander, was summoned to the Arkham base. He had known Yuto for a long time. But being called in so suddenly still made him uneasy. He did not know why he had been summoned. Then Yuto appeared, looking completely relaxed. As it turned out, Yuto was the one who had summoned Kaito. Kaito thought Yuto had arranged another ordinary mission for him. He even warned Yuto that if the mission was boring, he would not let him off easily. Yuto pointed out that Kaito clearly had not read the mission file yet. But that was fine. He could guarantee this mission was nothing like the ones before. Because they were about to enter the Lost Kingdom. Kaito immediately became excited. Judging by his reaction, he had heard legends about this kingdom before. And now, those legends were about to become real. Yuto boarded the ship as well. Together, they headed toward the energy field that had suddenly appeared. During the voyage, Sumi, the Tomb Raider from the forest mission, suddenly appeared on the ship. Yuto immediately understood why she was there. After hearing about the Lost Kingdom, Sumi had clearly come looking for treasure. She pretended to be innocent. But Yuto did not believe a word of it. Kaito did not fully trust her either. However, Sumi knew ancient ruins and mechanisms better than most people on the team. So for now, Kaito agreed to let her follow them. Just like that, the team gained one troublesome new member. As the ship approached the energy field, the equipment started acting strangely. The surface of the sea looked like it was being torn open by an invisible force. Kaito seemed unusually excited and began talking about the legend of the Lost Kingdom. Deep under the ocean, there was a forgotten kingdom. Its technology was powerful enough to change the world. But the kingdom was also surrounded by a curse. Once the ship entered the energy field, everything around them changed. The sea fog scattered. An island appeared before them, filled with ancient buildings and massive ruins. Kaito confirmed that this was the Lost Kingdom. After they landed, all communication and instruments failed. Yuto reminded everyone to be careful. But Sumi took the chance to look around for anything worth stealing. At that moment, the island's ancient mechanisms came to life. A large number of automated guards rose from underground. The Arkham soldiers' bullets were almost useless. Only Yuto and Kaito could fight them head-on. More and more guards appeared. Then a powerful wave surged from deep inside the ruins. Only then did the guards all stop and turn toward the center of the island. Yuto realized that these guards were not simply attacking them. They were protecting something. Kaito realized their target was inside. The group kept moving forward. They arrived at a huge underground hall. An ancient throne stood in the center of the hall. In front of the throne, a glowing core floated in the air. This was the source of the energy field. While everyone was observing the core, Sumi secretly took an ancient device shaped like a key. At that moment, no one noticed what she had done. The scientist traveling with them made a terrifying judgment. If the core kept releasing energy, the entire ocean could be torn apart. Even worse, it could trigger a disaster across the world. Yuto immediately decided to shut down the core. But just as they prepared to approach it, a familiar man appeared. His name was Reiji. The moment Yuto saw him, he froze. Reiji was not an ordinary enemy. He had once been Yuto's most trusted partner. They had carried out missions together. They had survived the edge of death together. But later, Reiji had betrayed Arkham. He had also betrayed Yuto. Kaito also sensed something was wrong. He asked Yuto if he knew this man. Yuto did not answer. Reiji smiled and greeted Yuto. He had not expected Yuto to survive this long. Yuto questioned Reiji about why he was here. But Reiji said he had been waiting for this moment the whole time. To him, Arkham should never have sealed away the Lost Kingdom's power. It should have been used. Yuto warned him that if this power ever lost control, it would destroy the entire world. But Reiji believed the world needed to be reshaped. Humanity had already rotted. Only power like this could create a new order. Hearing this, Yuto became furious. To Yuto, Reiji had gone insane. But Reiji provoked Yuto in return. He claimed Yuto was no different. Arkham had been using him all along. Yuto thought he was protecting the world. But in reality, he was just a blade in Arkham's hand. Yuto did not want to listen anymore and rushed straight at him. The two clashed instantly. Reiji's speed and strength were terrifying. He also knew Yuto's fighting style very well. Reiji saw through almost every attack before Yuto could land it. Kaito tried to help, but Reiji knocked him back with a single strike. Sumi was also forced to hide to the side. While they fought, Reiji mocked Yuto for being the same as ever. He said Yuto still believed brute force could solve everything. Yuto shot back that at least he would never betray everyone like Reiji had. Reiji's expression turned cold when he heard that. He believed he had never betrayed anyone. The one that had truly abandoned them was this rotten world. During the fight, Reiji seized the device that controlled the core. He activated the Lost Kingdoms system. The entire island began to shake. The energy field expanded rapidly. But soon, Reiji realized the system was still missing the final activation key. Only then did he realize Sumi had already stolen it. Kaito realized the situation was bad. If they did not stop it immediately, the island would explode in 90 minutes. And the blast would swallow the surrounding sea. Sumi was hiding nearby. She tried to warn Yuto, but accidentally exposed her position. Reiji noticed her immediately. In an instant, he rushed to her side and held a knife to her. Reiji threatened Yuto. Either Sumi handed over the key, or she died. Of course, Sumi did not want to hand it over. She was still thinking about how much it could be sold for. Yuto shouted at her that there was no time left. In the end, Sumi had no choice. She handed the activation key to Reiji. Once Reiji got what he wanted, he threw her aside and turned his attention back to Yuto. Yuto told her to get back to the ship right away. She had to warn Kaito and the others. They needed to evacuate before the island exploded. Sumi asked what Yuto would do. Yuto said he still had an old score to settle with Reiji. Because he was a Spriggan. And a Spriggan's mission was to protect this world. Hearing that, Reiji became excited too. The situation spun out of control in an instant. Without warning, Reiji attacked Yuto. His attacks were terrifyingly fast. Yuto could only keep dodging. Meanwhile, Sumi reached Kaito and the rest of the team. She told them the island was about to explode. They had to evacuate immediately. When Kaito learned Yuto was still fighting Reiji, he understood one thing. This old score could only be settled by Yuto himself. Then they evacuated at once. Meanwhile, Yuto and Reiji's fight had turned brutal. Yuto tried to create distance and look for an opening. But Reiji stayed on him like a demon, giving him no room to breathe. With a single punch, Reiji knocked Yuto to the ground. This time, it looked like Yuto truly could not hold on. Reiji mocked Yuto for being too naive. He said Yuto would soon pay the price for it. At that moment, Yuto remembered the missions where survival had seemed almost impossible. But every time, he had held on. Yuto stood up again. He did not believe he would fall here. The next second, he counterattacked. At last, Yuto caught an opening after Reiji attacked. He jumped up and kicked Reiji. Then he kept pressing forward and placed his knife to Reiji's neck. But Yuto did not kill Reiji. He only looked at his former partner and begged him to stop. Yuto wanted to bring Reiji back. He did not want to lose the person who had once been his most important partner. He did not want Reiji to die by his own hand. And he did not want to live with that regret for the rest of his life. But Reiji only laughed at him. Reiji mocked Yuto for becoming too emotional. He also said Yuto was no longer as decisive as before. Those words hurt Yuto. But he still did not want to hurt Reiji. Reiji gave him no chance. Even then, Yuto grabbed Reiji's hand and refused to kill him. But Reiji had already been wounded too badly. Forcing the Lost Kingdoms system to activate had also triggered a backlash from the core's power. His body could not withstand it. Blood was pouring from his body. In the end, Reiji collapsed. But even then, he had not truly given up. Before his life ran out, he used his last strength to activate something deep inside the Lost Kingdom. The core began to react again. Yuto immediately realized the crisis was not over. The real disaster had only just begun. This part of the story ends here for now. Thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting the channel.